views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and the man joining me, well, experts think that Gary Busey has been doing an impression of him all these years. His name is Mike Roth.
I could have sworn you would say something different.
What would make you think that?
I have no idea. We're kind of dressed a little something different.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah, do you know why?
Tell me.
I have no idea. I'm asking you.
Yeah, we've taken on the form of animals this week, apparently.
We have. Well, we've never found my species. It's,
I think both of us are mythical creatures.
Yeah, the bearded bebop.
Yeah, you look good though, sir. I like the look.
Well, I'm trying to be you from last year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. You were a unicorn.
I was. You were a unicorn wrangler.
I was a unicorn wrangler, and now I'm the...
I'm struggling already to take you serious.
I have too much glitter on my face.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Let's get into what we're really here for this week. Let's talk about some movies, and I'm going to get us started with our streaming spotlight. This week, a film that was on Amazon Prime. It is a sequel called Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. This is the sequel to the original Borat movie, starring Sacha Baron Cohen, of course, as the titular Borat. Borat has returned all these years later. And in this film, we see what happened to him since we last saw him, and it wasn't good. He was not treated well back in his homeland because he embarrassed them in the previous film. But he is sent back to America on a mission to deliver Kazakhstan's #1 porn star monkey to Mike Pence.
Huh.
Yeah. This is what we're setting him out for. He's got a porn star monkey.
I'm going to let you know.
Yes.
And I did not see this movie, but this sounds absolutely horrible. And I saw the first Borat, and I saw this other... Sacha Baron Cohen, he's a great actor. I like him in everything else except for his shtick. Everything he does.
Let's talk about it. So on his journey to America, his daughter stows away instead and joins him on these adventures. And this film is your usual mix of surprise segments, making fools of rubes, and the narrative portion, which is meh. Like, there's obviously, his daughter is an actor. There's other actors within the movie, and their portions are kind of just not great to me. And of course, it's gotten a lot of attention. This film has gotten a lot of attention because of Rudy Giuliani appearing to solicit sex from an underage girl towards the end of this film.
Oh.
This video has gotten out, and his daughter, who's supposed to be a 15-year-old girl, is interviewing him, and at one point he reaches out his pants, and this has gotten Mr. Giuliani into some hot water.
I bet.
He's deflected it all, of course. And one of the things I appreciate about this movie is that it does address the fact that Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat is too well known to kind of convincingly pull this shtick off on most people. Like in the past, now I feel like there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor because people are like, well, that's just Borat. I know this.
It was a major motion picture that is very quotable. A lot of people know the first movie. They know Sacha Baron Cohen more as Borat than they know his real name.
And so a lot of this is him trying to, as Borat, did disguise himself a second step further. So it's someone disguising themselves, trying to disguise themselves even further, and it doesn't always work. There's some funny segments in this movie, but it kind of it feels like more of a series of segments than an actual movie.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a Jackass movie or something like that.
Well, that was the same as his other stuff too, and I like those little segments by themselves. It's a YouTube clip.
Right,
I can handle it and go ha ha ha. But how long was this movie?
I don't know. It's hour 40? I don't know, something like that. You know, and there's the shock factor that made the first one so appealing is kind of, you know, it's much less now because people are expecting the absurd from Borat. And sometimes it still works because he does outrageous things, you know. And I will say there are some laugh out loud moments in here. Like there really are, because he's a funny guy. And when he really gets someone on the hook, it's funny because he'll just keep pushing him further and further. And this film has a definite pointed political message. You know, I mean, he's going out after Mike Pence through this whole movie. So it has a very strong message in that. And it kind of, like all of his stuff, it sets out to kind of make fools out of some easy targets, you know. And I kind of found myself watching this more quizzical about the intentions of the people involved this time around. Like I'm watching going, these people have to know who this is. So are they just going along with it so they can get in a movie, get a little screen time, you know? Because like, not that many people can be this dopey, but I don't know. It just kind of proved to me like what we've learned about a lot of these sequels, especially ones with the distance in them, is you can't always go home, you know? Yeah. It's tough. So Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. Mara, what did I give this thing? What did we give it? 3 stars? 3 stars.
Wow.
It's funny.
Okay, all right.
I know, right?
I wasn't
the review
expecting
doesn't match
that.
The score.
That would have been better than all the other things that I.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot of funny segments in there. So I don't know.
Do you think this was better than the first one?
No way. Not even close.
All right, cool.
Anyways, moving on, sir. What do you have for us?
Oh, I have the little bit more highbrow movie.
Oh.
We have On the Rocks, another A24 movie, directed by Sofia Coppola, written by Sofia Coppola as well. Rashida Jones, she plays Laura. She got married to Dean, who's played by Marlon Wayans. And like most marriages, it starts off as a whirlwind with all the new relationship energy and stuff like that. But as family comes in and duties come in, it starts to becoming in a rut for many people. And she starts feeling this. It is Marlon Wayans. Dean, he has a successful business, but in order to have a successful business, he has to work very hard. He travels a lot. He's around other people. When he gets home one night after a long airplane ride, he has some Ambien in him, and he acts a little peculiar when he gives her a kiss goodnight. And she starts thinking that maybe, possibly, he's not interested in a relationship. He might have someone else. And those feelings get pushed a little bit more by the huge star of the movie. Bill Murray plays Felix, her kind of a strange dad. They have kind of a checkered past. Felix, he left the family and to be with another woman. He didn't stay with that other woman. He's kind of a wealthy playboy, he knows all the women. He's somewhat embarrassing to Laura when they go out. And Felix needs something so he could spend some time with his daughter. He starts mentioning that Dean is just like him. All men are the same. They all want different women, and they will stray from the house just like he did back when they were younger. And for most of this movie, it's that relationship building. You don't really see too much of Dean or Fiona, which is what everybody thinks is Dean's love interest. It's mostly a really cool interaction between father and son. And that story, I feel, is fantastic.
Sure.
What did you think of it?
No, I really like the dynamic between the two of them, between Rashida and Bill Murray, and you know, because she plays this woman who's kind of deferred all of her dreams to her husband's successes, and she's starting to, you know, she has a passion as a writer, and she's watched him succeed, and now she's kind of at this point where she's it's not that she's resentful or jealous of his success, it's just that, you know, she's in this point where like she's realizing we have different lives. And what do I have? And then you have Bill Murray, who he wants to connect with her, and he's great because I think he's a loving, well-meaning, very flawed father, and he's very protective of his daughter, and he loves her, and he still refers to her like she's a child. He talks about her like she's a child still, and uses nicknames like a child, and he still sees himself as the man who's responsible for her and to protect her, and so he's very, I think he's almost jealous of Dean in a way of like, I'm the guy who's always going to be here for you. That guy will only cheat on you. And he's hilarious because his theories about men and theories about sexuality, and they're insane, right? But he's been very successful, and she obviously loves him, and she feels she can depend on him even if he's not always the best thing, but it almost feels like when they're together, she allows herself to revert back to being a child as well. Daddy's taking care of me. And I think he's just great. I mean, a lot of this movie is Bill Murray just being Bill Murray. And just like one of the moments I loved in this movie is they're out cruising around, they get pulled over by the police. And his response is, "Hey, we're about to meet new people." I think their relationship is the backbone of this whole thing.
Oh yeah, I really got a feeling that the character Laura probably wouldn't have been hanging out with her dad as much. Like hanging out with him was an obligation that she has to do because it's family. As I'm watching this, I really couldn't really place if Felix was pushing this a little bit more just so he could spend time with his daughter. That's a feeling I kind of got, or if he truly believed in what he was saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or if
I think a little bit of both. Like he was enjoying having all this time, and like, hey, let's go here, let's go there. Hey, I got us a resort. Hey, let's do this. And even after she is able to reconcile some things, he still struggles with but because he has never had a woman in his life that stayed. Laura, his daughter, is the one who has showed him unrequited love.
Yeah.
And he surrounds himself with beautiful women, but there's only her who's kind of hung with him through everything. And it feels like he just wants her around and just wants her acceptance. And he finds comfort in her. And he's lonely. It's obvious he's lonely.
Yeah.
But
he's well liked. You could tell he's lonely in a crowd kind of guy.
But he's one of those guys who, like, after a while, I think people are like, okay, this guy's all flash. And I think that his convertible is a great analogy almost to him as a character. He's got this beautiful convertible that's awesome, but it barely runs.
Yep.
It's all show, it's all flash, but under the surface, the thing is barely able to run. And that's what I felt like his character was he's throwing money around and he's talking to everybody and this and that, but under the surface, he's a very broken man.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting how they used that. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Like, my issue with the movie is I wanted more from Laura as a character. I felt like her identity was tied constantly to the man that she was dealing with.
Yeah.
Her identity was tied to Dean, and her identity was tied to her dad. And I felt like she was never able to really step out and find herself in this movie. Even at the end, I was like, well, she's just happy now because certain things were resolved in a way.
Yeah.
But I never felt like she fully got go find your dream, go be you, that kind of frustrated me.
I have to agree. It's she didn't really progress much as a character. I think maybe Felix possibly did. He might have learned a little bit more about himself.
I think so.
I think he was trying to use the story that he had for Dean as a way of saying, hey, I was not bad, because everybody is just like
justifying
me.
his actions, yeah.
But I think at the end he started to learn a lesson a little bit. But I would like to have seen Sofia progress. I would like to have seen a little bit more to the movie. What they had was great, and that was the chemistry between Bill Murray and Rashida Jones.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, but I wanted a little bit more to say this was a perfect movie.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what did you give On the Rocks?
I give it a 4. It's a really good movie. I highly suggest it.
I do too. It's on Apple TV. If you have Apple TV, it's a good one. I give it 3.5 out of 5. Great, really good performances. Like I said, my beef was just how Rashida's character was not fully fleshed out for me.
Yeah,
that kind of frustrated me, especially from Sofia Coppola, who's a really great writer and director, and I don't know, I expected a little more.
I think every Halloween I have to say, I mean, what you're saying is very serious, but it's really difficult.
Yeah. Let's move forward, sir, to the next movie we have. This is a film that I found on HBO Max. It is called The Witches. This is a remake. This is from director Robert Zemeckis. It is an updated take on the previous 1990 version, which starred Angelica Houston, based on the Roald Dahl story. Stars Anne Hathaway as the Grand High Witch. It's aimed at kids with just enough fright in it for a younger audience. It starts with Chris Rock, who's the narrator, telling the story of him growing up, in which he states that witches are real, and then he goes on to prove it in this story. It's the story of a time where he had a run-in as a child with a witch, and how he barely escaped. And his grandma is played by Octavia Spencer, and one of the things I really like is his grandma believes him when he tells her that he saw a witch. She's like, all right, well, here's what we got to do. Because you know what? When I was a child, one of my best friends was turned into a chicken by a witch. Oh. So we got to take this seriously. And Anne Hathaway as the High Witch is really fun when she reveals her intentions she wants to turn basically all the children in the world into mice. And there's some actual scares in here, I think. There's some creepy moments in here, especially for the age group that they're going for. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some really fun visuals. I mean, Robert Zemeckis is really good as a visual storyteller. I do think that some of the effects, like of the actual witch, when she fully transforms, I just rewatched the 1990 version. I think that actually looked better.
Yeah,
because it was more practical.
Some of the CG in here looks
it gets
great.
A little off. And that's kind of been my beef with a lot of Zemeckis films lately. And so I don't think it can really match that. And the other issue is the story just kind of runs out of steam partway through and kind of staggers to an end. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really have a satisfying conclusion to it. But I think for its audience, I think it's an effective Halloween movie, effective scary movie.
I really wanted to see this. Unfortunately, it's only on that new HBO thing.
Right.
And they haven't figured out a deal with Amazon yet.
No, they have not. I think this is a flick that if you're a young teen, I think you'd really enjoy. Even my daughter enjoyed it. There's enough of a fright there, but there's a lot going on, and it's an interesting enough movie. So I ended up giving The Witches 3 stars.
Well,
yeah, there you go, 3 stars. Decent enough.
Good. Yeah,
I think I prefer the original, but not too bad.
There we go.
Let's move on, though, sir. It's what we have on Netflix this week.
Another remake.
Yeah.
We're talking about Rebecca. Originally, it was done by Alfred Hitchcock and Laurence Olivier and Joan Fontaine. But someone decided that let's take that many award-winning movie from the 1940s and let's update it by doing really nothing. It's not a shot for shot, but Rebecca is directed by Bean Wheatley. Lily James, she plays Miss De Winters. She is kind of a nameless woman, very young, and it starts off with her on vacation in Monte Carlo with a woman who just pays someone to go on vacation with her because really she's so annoying that no one else would really hang out with her, and she is the ward. She's the only person that can do this. Well, on this vacation, her sponsor ends up getting sick, and that's when she finds Maxim De Winter, who is a recently widowed older man who lost his wife. He's a little lonely, and he finds a friendship and eventually a love for the new young girl.
Yeah.
They get married so that she didn't have to go to New York with her sponsor. And she moves away to this beautiful castle where she finds that memories of Rebecca, his lost wife, hasn't faded quite yet. And there are people, staff, mostly Miss Danvers, who plays a kind of an evil type woman who just can't let go of how much she loved Rebecca, and she wasn't going to give the new woman a chance. And this story kind of develops into many little different episodes until, much like a soap opera, it doesn't blend all together, but in the end there is a conclusion. Only one thing I think they did better than the original, and the original felt a little pedophilia. They mentioned a lot how young she is, and they did in this one too. They even mentioned that Rebecca was 14 or something like that when she met Maxim, which just kind of creeps me out. And there's a little incestual thing too with a cousin and Rebecca, which
that's a story though.
That is a story, but they didn't. That is more of a shocker than a lot of the other things, and I always thought it was weird. It was just like, oh yeah, she has these relations with her cousin.
What you said earlier is kind of what I felt about it. This felt more like a soap opera to me.
Yeah.
This felt, first off, I think it felt too safe. It felt like they just made it so bland that there was no intrigue. Like, this is a gothic story.
Yeah.
And it just felt too safe, too pretty, too bland. I mean, there's some beautiful shots.
Yep.
And I think Lily James is great. One of the things that really frustrated me was the musical score in here.
Oh, that was horrid.
It betrayed so many moments of this movie where the score is to a different part of the movie. It felt like well, he's revealing something, and it's like this jaunty score in the background. I'm like, this is awful.
And they had some horrible actual songs that felt like maybe someone's relative knew the director, and they were like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
It didn't match up well.
No.
I do think this is like Armie Hammer, I'm hot and cold on. And I think this is a good use of him in this role. This seems to be the role he's played a lot lately, of this stately guy. I think that Lily James is a much better actress than she was allowed to be in this movie. I've seen her be great. I think this movie takes all the nuance out of the Hitchcock film out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like the shadow of both the Hitchcock film and the novel itself hang heavy over this movie, and it never gets out of the way. And I rewatched a movie recently. From I watched Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak over the last couple of months. I hadn't seen that since in theaters.
Yeah.
Realized that's Rebecca. It's the Rebecca story, only done way, way better and in a dark gothic tone. But it's basically the same story, and I never realized it until I rewatched it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch it.
Because I hadn't seen Rebecca before I'd seen Crimson Peak. So I go back, and I'm like, wow, this is what it is. And the edge-of-the-seat mystery that was in the 1940 film is gone in this. And it felt so bland to me. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. This was something that really didn't need to be remade, kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. If someone says we're going to reboot that, we're going to put someone else in it, I don't think they would be able to match up to that. You'd really have to try hard.
Yeah.
Ben Wheatley, I've really never heard of him before, and he's trying to compete against Alfred Hitchcock.
It's tough. At least, like you said, at least it wasn't shot-for-shot remake.
But I did like they toned down some of the pedophilia a little bit, and I kind of liked Armie Hammer better than Laurence Olivier.
Ooh, hot take.
Sorry.
Hot take. I can't look at this. What do you give Rebecca?
I give it a 2. I don't recommend watching it. Watch the original. It's won awards.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it 2 stars as well. Highly recommend the original. Hitchcock's only Best Picture winner. This film just had no nuance to it. It's a primetime soap opera. That's all it was. Let's take a look, sir, ahead. Let's go to our center stage segment where we're talking about a Steve Martin film. We have a couple of minutes here, and since this is our Halloween episode,
that's why we're dressed like
that's
this.
Right. I thought we might go with one that's got a little bit of fright to it or something. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Little Shop of Horrors, one of my favorite musicals, actually my favorite musical from 1987, directed by Frank Oz, which you could tell because the puppetry in here is awesome. We have Levi Stubbs, he plays the voice of Audrey 2. We got Rick Moranis. We have Steve Martin. We have Bill Murray, who we talked about, Jim Belushi. We have all these, John Candy. We have tons of stars. some of the best music that I've ever heard. Every single one of these songs is singable or quotable. This is a fantastic movie.
It's my favorite musical. I love everything. I love Ellen Greene, especially when she belts out because she plays such an injured lady. When she finally belts out in Suddenly Seymour, I get goosebumps every time because she's great. Rick Moranis is great. The reason we're talking about it is Steve Martin is in this film, and he steals a scene as the dentist.
If you have two options. You have the director's cut and you have the original cut. I'm going to tell everybody out there, I want the original cut.
The original cut is better.
It's way better.
I agree.
The director's cut, spoiler alert, it's not a happy ending. Yeah. But this is such a happy movie.
Look at Steve Martin right there. Look at that guy. Look at those two comedic geniuses working together in the dentist's office. And like you said, Levi Stubbs Jr. is chef's kiss, the best voice for Audrey 2.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
And Frank Oz with his puppetry.
Yeah. This is a perfect movie.
CG doesn't really ever cut next to what he's done in his movies. Really hasn't.
Good stuff. Love Little Shop of Horrors so much. I was almost, this year, my costume was going to be Audrey 2. I found a costume, and then I realized it's all green, and we are on a green screen set. I would have been nothing sitting here. It would have been a pot with nothing in it.
But you know what would have been more important?
What's that?
I would have enjoyed it.
You would have. Well, maybe next year. You never know. Spoiler alert. Maybe next year. All right, sir, let's take a look ahead at what is coming soon, the weekend of November 6th. We have a few films. There's a film in the theater called Let Him Go on Netflix. Film called Citation, which is about a student who reports a popular professor who had tried to rape her and finds herself taking on the academic establishment in the process. Doesn't sound like a comedy to me.
No, it does not sound funny.
We also have Antebellum, which is Janelle Monáe in a terrifying mystery. I've been waiting to see this. We also have on Netflix Mother, which is a film that is 10 years after the events of the Bates Motel. Norman wakes up in a mental asylum and does not know how he got there.
I thought you were going to say 10 years after Mother. And I'm like, that's just Mother again.
10 years after Danzig's Mother came out?
No, the movie Mother.
Oh, okay.
The Mother,
either one, they're all great.
mark.
All mothers are great. That's what I say. Say hello to your mother for me. All right. Before we leave
vanilla-ice.
We have to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring this program. I was just there again the other night.
Nice.
Loved it. Enjoyed my time there. And we do appreciate you sponsoring the program, and we encourage you to help them out. Go check out a film, maybe. Do whatever you can. Don't forget, the Palace is there. They're open. And if you have the app, you can see what days they're open and what shows they're showing. They've got all kinds of movies going on right now. Lots of old ones. So thank you for that, sir. Next week, we got a few films. We have one called The Kid Detective, which is all about basically if Encyclopedia Brown grew up to be a detective, only he was still solving the cases that a kid detective would solve.
Sounds funny. I like the premise.
Yep. We also have Over the Moon, which is an animated movie on Netflix that, spoiler alert, I've seen, and I recommend you check it out.
All right.
We'll talk about that
I'm going to do
next week. We also have, next week, we'll have Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight.
You shouldn't do that.
His House. And another center stage segment, which we are going to return with Steve Martin and maybe another friend of his from Little Shop of Horrors, reuniting once again.
Who could it be? He's actually done that a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of his thing. Who wouldn't want to work with Steve Martin? Like, hey, he's doing another movie. I'm in. And again, Steve Martin with dark hair. It throws me off every time I see it.
Twice
I don't
he's
care
done it.
for it. I don't like it.
No.
Let it go natural.
Yeah.
Look at Mike. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I got silver hair.
What the heck comes off? Look, that's terrifying, Mike. All right, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Hey, if you want to keep in touch with us, we are on social media. We encourage you to find us there. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. Real Reviews TV will get you where you need to be. So come on over and chat with us there. We're posting photos and doing fun things. So check it out. But until next week, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Have a good one.